In SEO and content marketing, authority is the common lingo, isn't it? Everyone desires it, but not everyone knows how to obtain and maintain it. Google, in particular, values authority and is more likely to favor context that executes it. After months of hard work and perseverance in creating your internet reputation, having a brand authority is the ultimate goal. There is no such thing as from zero to hero in authority, story that happens just overnight. It takes time. Instead, you'll need to be patient and stick to a well defined approach to establish yourself as a recognized authority in your field. So, how can one build authority? Ask the Trainers is a podcast brought to you by Compass Mind Asia, where we interview trainers to explore more on their field of expertise. I'm Sherin Callay, and today we have Yandaro Al Amien, the founder and Chief Culture and Learning of PopConFest, with us, and we are going to explore more on the topic of the 101 guide on authority building that will improve your corporate sales.
So many questions on training programs? Just ask the trainers.
Hi, Amin.
Hi, good to be here.
Thanks for coming on our show, Ask the Trainers. How are you today?
I'm doing fine. And how are you doing, Sherin?
I'm doing great and so excited to have you on the show because I know you got so much of golden nuggets to share with us today. So we've got so many questions from us and also the audience. So shall we get started? Are you all ready?
I'm all ready. Let's get things rolling. I hope everyone is taking their pen and notes and paper with them because there's a lot of golden nuggets that are going to be shared today. Yeah.
Yes, I look forward. I too want to learn so much. So before we explore more on the topic, can you explain to us what is authority building?
Okay, so the easiest way for me to explain this would be this. Imagine if you are like the only go-to person in regards to anything that has to do with your specialty, right? So if you are a corporate trainer, for example, and you are the leading person in culture, and you are like the one and only person in the whole village, right, who are the master of this. How do you know if that person is the authority in that field? When everyone comes to that person for advice, when everyone comes to that person and say, hey, I want to know more about this specific topic that you're talking about, right? You know that you are an authority the moment when people come to you to seek for advice, to seek for information on how they can actually solve their own current problem in relation to what you are serving, right? But the journey to do that is not a short-term journey. It is something that requires consistent effort on the person side. Okay, so let's just say if I am, let's give one example. What would be the best example? Okay, Compass Mind, for example, is the go-to person, the go-to company when it comes to training. Why is that? Because they're consistently giving a lot of value on all of their social media platform, right? People know you, Sherin, because whenever people talk about Sherin, people will know that, you know what? I know Sherin as the go-to person when it comes to anything to do with solving HR solutions, right? So that's the game that you want to play. But in order for you to do that, Sherin, is it a one-night thing or is it something that you do it just like one time or it's consistent thing?
It's total consistency and hard work.
Correct. So this is the one thing that a lot of people don't get. If you really want to close a deal in today's world, right? If you really want to sell something today, the game right now is for you to be seen as the go-to person. You are the authority in your field. So in any industry right now, either you're a dentist, a doctor, a financial planner, right? If you are selling oil and gas, for example, oil and gas solutions, whatever it is right now, you need to build the authority out there. And I noticed that a lot of companies are missing out a lot of sales because they are not doing this. Right.
You're
So
right.
that's how I see it. So authority building is basically to become the go-to person, the thought leader, another word for it, right? The thought leader in your industry. And you know that you are the authority figure the moment people come to you for advice.
Okay, thanks for the answer. That's a very detailed answer. And so now I understand it so well. How can one build their business authority? What are the main processes involved? Is there some step-by-step processes that someone needs to follow?
Of course. One of the things that I will usually advise companies and clients, right, whenever they want to build the authority for their people, right, is number one is that you need to really sit down with your team to gain some clarity in terms of your personal branding first. That's the key thing that you need to take a look at, right? What do you stand for? What problems are you solving? Who is your target clients, right? Who are you communicating to? What would be some of the solutions that you're providing? So all of that you need to, this is basically the back end process that you need to complete. You need to handle all of that first before you can actually announce it to the public and say, hey, you know what, this is what we need to do. Because what I notice is that a lot of people, what they do, they just go out there and start announcing that I'm the jack of all trades. I can solve all of your problem, but that's not the way to do it. The way to do it today is that if you are in an organization, you really need to become a specialist in one area, right? Focus client always wins. So you focus on one solution and what will be the way for you to overcome those problems. You need to work with your team to overcome that one first, right? Handle that conversation first, then only you can move on to the next part. The next part, what you need to do is that you need to start communicating this to the people around you, right? And what better way for you to do this by using social media? And that's one of the best platform for you to use, yeah? And there's a whole lot of social media out there. We have like TikTok, we have like Facebook, we have Instagram, we have LinkedIn. The key ingredient at this moment is that if you're just starting, right? What you want to do is that you want to focus on one platform first before you start embarking on a different platform. Yeah. Unless if you have the team to start going big. Okay. But if you are a solopreneur, if you are just an SME company that is just starting, we always tell you to focus on one platform first because every platform serves a different communication. Now, how do you choose the best platform? The key ingredient to this is to know who you're selling to. Because if you know who you're selling to, then you can identify which platform that you can focus on. If you are selling a corporate solution, a B2B business, right? And you know that the sales cycle would take a little bit more time and you need to engage with decision makers, I would say LinkedIn was one of the best platforms for you to do that. If you're looking into consumer market and your product is catered for the consumer, then maybe it could be TikTok, it could be Instagram, it could be Facebook, right? So the key ingredient is before you choose a platform is to understand who your client is, where are they hanging out, right? Which platform will be the best platform for you to sell. Then once you've done that, you choose a platform. The next thing that you would need to do is to have a content strategy. Okay, what is a content strategy? A content strategy basically focus on you creating content that will initiate buying conversation, right? Now, the consumer right now today is smarter than ever. Okay, they are not like how they used to be 20 years ago. I mean, the old way of selling is just to do cold calling, right? You know the game. This number of call for you to have this number of meetings for you to be able to have this number of closure every month, right? That's the game that we used to play, but the game now has totally changed. Right now, if you were to call someone and somebody saw that number on their mobile phone, they take a look at the number, they do not know who's calling them. Most of the time, they will just ignore it, right? Maybe they will install a calling app to identify who's calling. So if there's a lot of spam, if you know it's a spam call and all that, you would know. Yeah. So people don't have time for all of this cold calling anymore. They want to be able to decide on their own. So how do they decide? They do a lot of research. They will go online and take a look at your company. They will take a look at your website. They will take a look at all of the social media platform that you have, and they will take a look at your content. Is the content that you're creating serving them and giving value to them? If it's not, right, they will go to someone else because there's just too many options out there, right? So the game is how do you actually become the go-to person compared to all the other competitors that you have outside there. So that's what you need to do. Decide on the content strategy, okay? And it has to be done consistently. And at the same time, you need to have a strategy to increase the number of connections and followers that you have in all of the social media platform that you have, okay? Now, that's just some of the part of the work that you do in authority building. Okay, that is just to position yourself as the go-to person. For you to be able to close the deal, this is another game that you need to do. And a lot of corporate organization, I noticed they are lacking in this. They do not know how to move conversation from online to offline and having a one-on-one meeting or a group meeting. This is a skill that you still need to have. The content will bring the people to you, right? Halfway done. But what do you do? What do you need to do after that? What's next for you is for you to be able to close the deal. So you need to be able to present in a very, very enrolling way. You still need to have the persuasion skill. You still need to be able to convince the people when you're presenting to them that you are the go-to person when it comes to solving the problems that they have. So those are the step-by-step process that you need to basically master. And I think for organizations today, if they really want to get their people up to the next level, these are some of the trainings that you want to consider and you want to take a look at. How can I get my people to not just spam people when they're selling, right? No longer just depending on cold calling, but how I can get my people to be able to use social media platform like LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform that you are looking into, and use that to leverage on bringing the client closer to them. How can I create value for my people? So those are some of the things that you need to do, lah.
That's a very good one. You brought out this word so that the corporate organizations person who is in charge of the social media, right, doesn't go and spam people. There are times where I open my social media and suddenly there's one big write-up of a company, an organization trying to sell something to me. And that's a real turn off. So
exactly. And we get this on a daily basis, right? Where people will just send you a private message. I know that it's not a private message, but it's a bot or it's a spam message that they will just, it's a template, a templated message when you see one, and it's not a personal message, that this person doesn't care. That is really pretty much the traditional way of doing things. Today, what you want to do is that you want to get people to care more. It's not about the quantity anymore, it's the quality of leads that you have, right? You can have 100 leads, but if those leads are not quality leads, what's the point? I would rather have 20 very quality leads that come in because of the conversations that I have with them, and the closure rate is bigger. So how do you do that, right? You need to understand this one thing about people today. They will buy when they are ready. Okay? They are buy when they are ready. So most of the time, if you were to take a look at the social media connections that you have on a personal level, so right now, if I have about 20,000 people that's connected to me online, only 3% of them are ready buyers. 3%, that's a low number. That means if I were to do a post or content online right now, that is basically a direct sales content. Do you know what a direct sales content is? Hey, you know what? I'm having a promotion this month. How many of you would want to buy this? That's a direct sales content. Okay? Only 3% of them will be engaging with that post. The other 97% will ignore it and say, you know what? This is a sales pitch. You do that every day for 1 month, people will run away from you.
Yeah, the 20,000 followers will reduce.
It will reduce, right? They will be like, okay, you know what? I mean, it's not giving me any value. What's the point of me following? Because he's just selling, and selling. So what you want to do right now is that you want to focus on nurturing the leads. That's the game they want to play. So part of authority building is all about being able to nurture leads by educating the people and customers or consumers that's coming to your platform, checking out your profile and checking out your content. And when they read your content, they'll be like, you know what? I really like what Amin is doing. I'm gaining so much value from this. I'm going to follow this person. And when the time is right, when they are ready, they will come to you and buy. So that's a different game nowadays, right? How do I nurture so that the moment they are ready, you will be on top of their list? That's the game you want to play in authority building.
Okay. And this applies to sales, whether it is in service industry or the or products or services, right?
Definitely, right? I mean, let's look at it from a commercial angle, yeah? If you take a look at some of the advertisement that we have in the past, right? Which of those advertisement that you remember the most? The one on TV. I always remember the advertisement that the late Yasmin Ahmad, right? The Petronas ads. Do you guys remember all of the Petronas ad?
Yes.
Okay. You remember it until today, isn't it?
Correct.
And some of the ads has been around for more than 10 years, 20 years. The late Yasmin Ahmad has already passed away, but we remember the work. Why? Because of the message and the content that she created. And people will always remember and relate Petronas for Raya ads.
Correct.
Okay? So the question right now is for organizations, if you are selling on behalf of your organization, what can you do so that when you are creating content to build authority, people can relate to your message? How can you be a Yasmin Ahmad in your industry? That's a question you want to ask.
That's a good one. That's a very good
Yeah.
one. I mean, in simple words, how can one become an authority and trustworthy brand online? What are the main
There's
key
one word. The one keyword for this is consistency.
And when you talk about consistency, do you mean like consistency daily or consistency in terms of if you are consistent once a week, you are consistent every week once a week? Is it a
Okay.
daily? Yeah.
So consistency is not just about the number of posts that you do. Okay. Consistency is about the way you communicate to people. Right. If you say that your brand values integrity and you are a person with integrity, that is the branding that you have. The last thing that you want to have is that people talking about you not living to the integrity. Okay, so I'm going to give you one example. Do you know Jay Shetty?
Yes.
All right. So what is Jay Shetty known for?
His motivational talks, videos.
Correct. But about a few years ago, about 1 year, or is it about 2 years ago, he was caught red-handed for plagiarism. So a lot of the content that he took was from someone else, and the internet was going wild about it. So here's a guy that talks about value, that talks about integrity, but at the end of the day, he's not living to that. There's no consistency in that, right? So that will affect your brand. Okay. So if consistency is also the way on how you present yourself online, it has to be consistent when people meet you face to face. Right. So if like for me, my brand is, I will say it as it is. Okay. You will hardly see me in suit and tie. You will see me perhaps in shirts and jeans. That's my brand. And I will show that brand consistently on my social media profile as well. Okay. So that's another part of consistency. Okay. Consistency is also about what you say. If you say this, you will live up to that. So what you say, you have to follow. That's the internal part of consistency. Then the next part of consistency is in terms of your communication. If you were to post 3 times a week, right? This week, and then suddenly the next following week, you decided to go 2 times a week, that's not consistent anymore. So you need to follow that game plan that you have. If you decided that you are posting 3 times a week, and another 2 days I'm going to be spending on connecting with people, then that's the game plan. If you're consistently doing 5 times a week, and you do that, the algorithm will catch with it, and then they will follow that consistency as well. And you are basically, what you're doing is that you are training your audience to also know your pattern. Okay, you don't post one time and then expect people to buy from you. Authority building is a long-term game. It's not a one-night thing. It's a long-term game that will require you to be consistent and to put commitment for the next few years. Okay, until you decided to exit from whatever you're doing. Okay, that's how you do it, right? So does it make sense?
It makes a lot of sense, man. What are some of the don'ts or things to avoid during when building authority? What are the things people need to look out for not to do?
Okay, first thing first, when you are just starting, one thing that you need to understand is that for a lot of people, putting themselves out there is something that's very new, right? So what I will always tell our student is that you really need to commit to this. So commitment is the most important thing that you need to put into. If you decided to come into this journey, then commitment is number one. When you say you want to post 3 times a week, you're going to post 3 times a week. right? So you need to put the commitment and the effort to actually do the work. Another thing that you also need to realize is that authority building is also a journey. Okay, when I say that it is a journey, that means you will make mistakes in the beginning, right? Some of the most famous influencer in the world did not get to 1 million subscribers or 2 million or 50 million subscribers in one night. They make mistakes in the beginning. But what they do with the mistakes that they created in the beginning is that they take all of this information and all of this data and use it to improve themselves to become better and better. So if you are just starting to create video content, for example, your first video content will usually be the worst, but it is the most important and crucial part of your authority building journey because you just need to do it first. It's just like driving, right? You cannot go to gear 2 or gear 3 immediately. You need to go to gear 1 first. Then once you become better, you go to gear 2 and then gear 3. So my advice for those who are just starting, be patient, right? You need to learn to enjoy the journey. That's one thing that you need to do. Because if number is something that you are looking at in the beginning, you will definitely give up very, very fast. You want to play the number game, but in such a way that this is a long journey. I'm improving and I get better and better as it goes along. And this is something that a lot of corporate organizations also need to understand, that their salespeople, if they are starting this journey, you need to allocate time for them to be able to learn and adapt to this. Because it's a totally new ways on selling, right? You're putting yourself out there. Some people are not comfortable to do this. When you tell them to post on social media, there will be a lot of fear. Some people will say, I'm not good enough, right? I do not know what to write. I don't have time. There's a lot of excuses that will come out. But either you like it or not, this is a required skill today if you really want to be seen and to really start closing deals online. Okay, you just got to do it. Okay.
So very primarily is for corporate organizations sales team to get onto authority building first before the rest of the organization gets on. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah. So one of the things that I also do with corporate organizations, that I actually work and help their salespeople to basically learn these new skills, because especially a lot of people right now are getting stuck with their corporate sales, and they have no idea why is it that people are not buying the product for them. So what we do is that we actually come to them and actually help them to first of all get used to the idea of social selling and understand that we are now no longer in sales 1.0, where we're doing a lot of cold calling, qualifying leads for us to get all of this meeting. We are now in sales 2.0, where one of the things that you do in sales 2.0 is to engage in conversations. And where do you engage in conversations? On social media. So a lot of people have no idea how to use social media properly, right? I used to use Facebook just as a place for me to just rant about politics. That's what I usually do. Yeah, but it doesn't actually benefit anything. It doesn't bring you any profits. There's a shift of mindset that you need to learn as well. So this is something that we do with corporate organizations, where we help them to identify some of the pain that they have and get them to actually learn and apply the new selling skill by using social media platform to get those sales. Right? First thing first, build authority first. When you are the authority, when you are the thought leader in your industry, then from there, what's going to happen is that you are actually going to get people to come to you for advice, and that's how you can actually close a deal. Yeah.
I mean, I totally agree with you when you say this is sales 2.0, because let me share an experience about sales 1.0, cold calling. I've always been doing cold calling from 20 years ago, and so I've got a very consistent database of clients already. And we had employed a new staff into the organization a couple of months before the pandemic hit. So when the pandemic hit, this new person who was taught cold calling had nobody to call. So I understand a lot of organizations actually suffered in that area during the pandemic. So what I did is, because my database had grown for 20 years, I gave some of it over, so which was fine. But then that's where I realized how important authority building was. You can't do the old way. You have to move forward to the new way. The new way of doing things. Yeah. So
Yeah.
sales
Uh,
2.0 is really good. Yeah. You were
Totally
saying?
agree with that. Absolutely. And I think one of the things that corporate organizations also need to understand is to take a look at the current sales process that they are using,
Mhm.
right? And to start comparing it with where they were before, and you will be able to see significant reduction in terms of sales, because if you're still blasting out email, right,
Mm.
with the hope that people will actually read the email, that's another conversation altogether. Yeah. uh, I won't read any emails that I do not know unless I've already built some form of connections or rapport with the person. So again, authority building, that's the way to do it. That's the way to move forward.
That's right. What are some of the challenges that one may face when trying to build authority?
First thing is their mindset. Personal mindset needs to be handled first. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
what do I mean by that? Remember, I talked about internal conversations when you want to start creating content online.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my own internal conversation when I wanted to start to do this was that, you know what, I don't think I'm good enough.
Mm-hmm.
There are other trainers or corporate coaches out there that can do this better. Who am I to claim that I'm the best in the industry, right? Those are conversations. We call it the imposter syndrome, isn't it?
That's right.
Right? It's imposter syndrome that you need to overcome. And it's also a new habit that you need to start incorporating into your daily sales routine. So for some people, when it comes to authority building, it's about them adjusting to the idea that, part of my sales process now have to include me creating content. Okay. So there's this term that I always like to use. And I always preach this to people. No matter what business you are in today, you are now a media company, either you like it or not. Okay. So you need to communicate with the people out there. Communication is also about not just about you talking, but it's also about you listening as well. So when you post an information, when you post a content, this is how I listen. If nobody is responding to my content, okay, that's a feedback for me. Okay. What kind of feedback is that? The feedback is, oh, you know what? My content might suck. Okay. It might not it might not trigger conversation. People are not buying into this. So that's data for me, right? So I do a lot of this data tests. I do different type of content. I put it out there, and then I see the response. That's the way to listen. Yeah. Another way to listen is that when people are engaging in your content, have you actually spent time to sit down and engage with everyone that's commenting and liking your content? Okay. Those are conversation. The currency in social media is actually conversation, because what you are actually doing is that you are using social media platform as a way for you to trigger conversation, so that you can move conversation from online to offline.
Mm.
Offline is where the sales is. Offline is where you're going to sit down with them and talk about their problems, and these are the solutions I have, right? But to go to that, it has to go to this process. So another thing that I noticed that is a challenge for people is that they have no patience. Okay.
Mm-hmm. True.
So what do I mean by no patient? They do it for 3 months, then they don't see any results, then they just give up. You know what? Things are not moving. So you need to understand this, that whatever that you do, every effort that you put in when it comes to authority building, all of those are feedback, right? You got to take those feedback and take a look at the data and say, oh, you know what? There's certain thing using now that's not working. I got to do something a bit different next time around, right? So those are things that you need to take a look at. So patience, not having the patience to do it, is another issue that people have. And also at the same time, I also noticed that people do not know how to post, right? So for them, posting is sharing company brochure,
Okay.
okay, or sharing publications
Mm.
without putting any context into it. So uh, this is something that you can learn. Fortunately, it's something that you can develop, you can learn from it, and also at the same time, you can build up the skill as you go along, right? So
Mm.
those are some of the things that I noticed that it's a problem for people when it comes to authority building.
Mm. So, in other words, would you say, because you mentioned some people put up brochures and publications, Basically, it is important to give before you can receive. So you give value before you can receive instead of sell, 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 and then people run away. Is that right?
Exactly, exactly. And what I noticed, right, because we've also been working with some of our students, I noticed that the students that um, managed to hold, uh, what do I mean by hold? So there's these two terms that we use in social in when it comes to building content. There's value posts and there's the marketing posts. Okay,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
so a value post is an inception post where you are creating, you're using your content to give value to people. You're giving tips, you're educating people, you're giving people advice, you're talking a little bit about your own personal story, right? The format for that is storytelling. Okay. But when you're only doing that, what will happen is that sometimes people will be like wondering, are you offering anything or not? Okay. So from time to time, you need to balance it. So it's 90% giving value, 10% asking.
Mm.
Okay. Now, what we notice is that there are some of our students who manage to hold the asking part, the marketing part, towards the end. And the moment they ask, the sales come in. It's a miracle, isn't it? Because by that time, people are already ready to buy.
Mm.
You already built rapport with them. They already know you. They already like you. They already trust you. So therefore, because you already established this three thing with them, they would come to you and say, you know what, it's about time that you ask this because I've been wanting this. See?
Mhm.
So we've got reports where people, what they do is that they just hold the sales. They just give value, give value, give value, give value. By the time they just ask, the sales just come in. So this is something that you need to strategize with the team. Yeah.
That's great. And if you could give three tips and tricks, kind of advice for those who want to build authority, especially in the corporate world, what would that be?
So in the corporate world, this is something that I would always advise you to do. Number one, okay, first thing first that you need to do is that you need to update all your social media profile first, right? Either you are link if you are selling on Facebook, if you're selling on LinkedIn or Instagram, make sure that it's updated. Make sure that the photo that you have is the current photo that you have. Make sure that you have a clear description of your about, right? Why is that important? Because the moment people look into your content and they are triggered by your content, what they're going to do after that is that they're going to take a look at your profile first. Your
Mhm.
profile is your personal brand. Your profile is a representative of you online, right? So for corporate sales, first thing first, guys, spend some time, get clarity in terms of personal branding, and update your profile. Okay. Once you have done that, second thing that you need to do before you even create content is to start inviting the people that you know, your existing client, your warm leads into your connection first, right? And start to look into having consistent networking strategy online that will allow you to boost the number of connections that you have. The more connections you have, the better it is, right? It's still a number game, right? Remember this again, 97% are not ready buyers. 3% are ready buyers. So what do? Build the numbers. As you are building your number, the third thing that you need to do is start creating content online. Do not wait. Start consistently doing it. One content per day, at least minimum, 3 times per week. Yeah? Three content. Okay, let's do this. Three content per week, at least. Okay? What kind of content do you do? Don't sell. Don't give them company brochure. Right? Okay, I noticed some people, what they do is that they go and post their company brochure and start get hoping for people to want to read brochures. People do not want to read brochures. People want to know your story. Start crafting story and incept people in terms of what you do. Okay, do that three things. That's a good kickstart to your authority building journey, right?
Mhm. That's so doable. And that is so much of golden nuggets actually you have shared. So we've come to the end of the show. I mean, I really like to thank you so much for spending your time and giving us so much. I took so much notes too, see? There's so much more I need to learn too. But yeah, like you have given advice to the audience. Well, it's never too late to get started, isn't it? I mean, anytime is a good time. It's just get it started, isn't it?
I would say you better start now. If you don't, the bus have left the building. Okay, do it now. Okay, update
Okay.
your profile. At least please update your profile. Yeah.
You heard the authority, do it now. So, guys, do it now. And Amin, thank you so much for joining us on Ask the Trainers and sharing so much to us and our valuable audiences. And we hope to see you again. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. All right. It's an honor to be here, guys. Again, remember the 3 tips, right? Update your profile, start connecting with people, and start posting. That's it. Simple strategy.
Yay. I'm going to do that right now. So I'll see you again, Amin. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. So, guys, as you have heard the podcast, which was so good with so much of golden nuggets for you to apply right now, but remember this. Number one, sales processes has changed. Authority building is the way to do it from now on. No more the old way, but now the new way. Second would be salespeople need to be equipped with the knowledge of the new sales skills. Remember, no more sales 101, but now is sales 2.0. Sorry, no more sales. I'm starting again. Okay. So, guys, as you heard the wonderful podcast, and this is a summary about it. Number one would be sales process has changed. Authority building is the way to go forward from now on. Number two, salespeople need to be equipped with the knowledge of the new sales skills. It's no more sales 1.0, but it's now sales 2.0. And this doesn't matter which industry you are in. All right. Sales 2.0, authority building is the way forward. Number three, remember, start today. It is today that will bring you forward. Start doing it now. Doing what? Doing these 3 things. Number one, update your profile immediately. Start building your leads through connections. Whichever platform you are on, start building those leads. And number 3, start posting at least minimum 3 times a week. And then you will see miracles happening. I hope you really like this podcast and, got so much of value. So if you're wondering about which training program you'll need for you and your team, just ask the trainers. Brought to you by Compass Mind Asia. Watch more of our episodes on Compass Mind Asia's Spotify and my YouTube channel, Sherin Callay. Till our next episode, signing off. Bye.
So many questions on training programs?